Welcome to Peculiar Stories, where we explore the fascinating world of near-death experiences and offer new perspectives on the meaning of life and death. Our goal is to shed light on these profound stories, deepen your understanding of life, and provide valuable insights to our audience. Whether you're new here or simply joining us again, we're thrilled to have you on this journey. If you enjoy what we do, consider subscribing to our channel to stay updated on our latest content, and don't forget to hit the like button to help our content reach a wider audience. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be transported to the edge of life and beyond. I became sick when I was 33 years old, with an autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis. In my case, the disease progressed rapidly and aggressively. From being a seemingly healthy 33-year-old guy to a 34-year-old with no control over bodily functions, the transition was incredibly challenging. Over approximately a year and a half, I tried every kind of diet and medication available, but nothing made a difference. It was a very difficult time, and it took a toll on my mental health as well. By Christmas 2019, I had already spent a total of 2 months in the hospital trying various medications without success. My stools became increasingly bloody, and I had to visit the bathroom anywhere between 50 and 60 times a day. I lost a third of my body weight, and at one point, I went over a month without actually eating. At this critical juncture, I felt my life flashing before my eyes. I confided in my doctor, expressing that I would prefer an end to my suffering rather than continuing this ordeal. The doctor recommended a colectomy. Initially, they would remove the affected parts of my colon and create a temporary stoma. This allowed the less severely affected part of the colon and the rectum to heal before reconnecting them several months later. Not long after, I was ready for my emergency surgery. The procedure stretched an astonishing 11 hours, causing considerable anxiety for my family in the Netherlands. They feared the worst, assuming I might not survive such an extended operation. Meanwhile, my wife, who accompanied me in the Mexican hospital where I reside, shared similar apprehensions. She clung to hope, reasoning that she would have heard something if I hadn't made it through. As fate would have it, the surgeon confirmed the complexity of the surgery upon completion. Emerging from anesthesia, I found myself in a vast, frigid recovery room around 11 p.m. The room was eerily empty, devoid of nurses or any other presence. As I opened my eyes, I noticed that I was tied to the bed. I saw a long line of gauze stretched across my abdomen. Between the empty hospital room, the massive incision from chest to pubic region, and being disoriented, I woke up feeling absolute horror. The pain was excruciating, and my initial thought was sheer panic. Had someone stolen my organs? I screamed, momentarily forgetting my illness. A nurse approached me, gently reminding me that I required surgery to have my colon removed due to severe ulcerative colitis. Suddenly, everything came rushing back. I cried and contemplated how I would navigate life from this point forward. The recovery period seemed interminable. All I longed for was to see my wife and speak to my family in the Netherlands. Yet, only 30 minutes had elapsed before I was escorted back to my room. That journey back was the most arduous and painful ride I had ever experienced. Every bump, every slightly raised tile on the floor felt like hell. The transition from the surgery cart back to my bed was excruciating as the pain seared through me. But amidst it all, I clung to the thought that I survived. As I finally rested, I noticed something remarkable. My extreme abdominal cramps had vanished. The urge to rush to the bathroom was no more. In that moment, despite the pain, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and happiness. A little less than a day later, I felt great. I eagerly anticipated returning home to resume my life where I'd left off. However, fate had other plans. My abdomen began to swell. I asked the nurse to call the doctor. Their reassurance was that post-surgery swelling was normal, and my intestines were gradually resuming their function after a prolonged pause during the operation. The following day, my breathing became labored, and I broke into a profuse sweat. My abdomen had ballooned to twice its usual size. Still, medical professionals insisted this was expected. Instinctively, I knew something was gravely wrong. Desperate, I demanded further investigation. I was waiting for my wife to come to the hospital. During that agonizing wait, my condition deteriorated further. The thought echoed relentlessly in my mind, "Today is the day I will die." I clung to this grim certainty, convinced that time was slipping away, and no family member would arrive in time to witness the necessary medical procedures. Then, after what felt like an eternity, a family member materialized. Together with the nurse, they escorted me to the MRI scanner. Finally, the scan concluded, and I was wheeled back to my room. I could hear the doctors talking in hushed voices that my small intestines had twisted upon themselves, creating a complete obstruction. In that harrowing moment, the doctors probed my ileostomy, attempting to manually untwist the knotted small intestine. As their fingers pressed into my flesh, I felt my life slipping away. The certainty of imminent death gripped me, though it remained unconfirmed. Abruptly, I felt a sharp jolt surge through my body. I detached, as if pulled from my own skin, and hovered against the hospital ceiling. From this vantage point, I observed my prone form. I watched the doctors' desperate efforts to unravel the twisted bowels. Beyond the frosted glass and walls, I glimpsed the faces of neighboring patients. Their faces were etched with fear over their silent concern. My body screamed a desperate plea. I don't want to die yet. In the next breath, darkness enveloped me. I traversed a tunnel. It was a jagged, transparent shaft that felt like it was drifting through space. Faint glimmers of stars or some celestial essence flickered through its walls. At the tunnel's distant end, some 300 meters, 900 feet away, a feeble light danced. It was like a campfire in the void. Recognition surged in me. This was home. Yet, I was still so afraid. Then I heard somebody talking to me inside my head. I looked around in the tunnel but couldn't see anyone. However, I felt the presence of a being or energy on my right side. The being. It assured me that I had absolutely nothing to fear and that everything would be all right. I responded, sharing my fear of dying and how it would hurt my family and wife. I told the being I couldn't leave all my unfinished matters for my wife to handle. Again, the being reassured me. There is absolutely nothing to be afraid of, and everything will be fine. I squeezed my eyes shut and suddenly found myself above my own body, pressed against the ceiling. The view was negative, painful, and horrifying as I watched myself dying. I flinched my eyes again and returned to the tunnel. Once more, I communicated with the being. I expressed my desire to leave my body and to go home toward the light. Once again, the being responded, "You have absolutely nothing to fear, and everything will be all right." As I thought about moving toward the flickering campfire light in the distance, a colossal hand emerged through the tunnel. It was like a massive train hurtling toward me. The hand was as large as my upper body. With tremendous force, it pushed me out of the tunnel and back to the hospital ceiling. I woke up near the surgery room. The doctors informed me they would put me back to sleep to fix my twisted intestine. After another 8-hour surgery, I woke up feeling remarkably well and free from pain. The harrowing ordeal had finally come to an end, and I was relieved to be back to normal. 2 years passed before I could even acknowledge that this extraordinary experience had truly happened to me. Initially, I identified as a Christian, but my beliefs were shaken. I might as well have been an atheist, as I didn't subscribe to anything spiritual or the concept of life after death. Even after those 2 years, I grappled with doubts, wondering if it was merely a product of my mind, some strange glitch in my brain. While browsing YouTube, I stumbled upon a documentary about near-death experiences, NDEs. To my astonishment, the accounts shared by others resonated with my own. Suddenly, I knew that what I had witnessed was not a mere hallucination. I had indeed come face to face with death. Despite this newfound certainty, sharing my experience with my family took another year. When I finally confided in them, I felt a mix of relief and trepidation. But then, something unexpected happened. I spiraled into severe depression. The weight of my encounter with mortality weighed heavily on me. I attempted to take my own life 3 times. Each attempt was unsuccessful. Desperate for relief, I turned to my psychiatrist, who introduced me to an experimental treatment. ketamine infusions. This unconventional therapy had shown promising results for individuals with treatment-resistant depression. During my first infusion at the hospital, something shifted. I felt a connection to something beyond my current existence. I felt a hint that there is more to life than meets the eye. I used to detest reading books, but something changed within me. I discovered the wisdom of remarkable philosophers like Alan Watts, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and Eckhart Tolle. Their teachings completely transformed my life, guiding me toward a spiritual path, distinct from religious dogmas which I avoid. I underwent a series of ketamine sessions, and afterward, I independently explored other psychedelics such as 5-MeO-DMT, bufo-toad-toxin, and psilocybin, magic mushrooms. During these experiences, I felt an overwhelming connection to the universe, akin to the near-death experience I had. These moments are etched in my memory as some of the most precious and profound encounters of my life. Watch this near-death experience next about a woman who met a giant in the afterlife and was shown his life on Earth.